Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dallas Hurd, your Oregon Republican Party chairman and senator for Southwest Oregon. It is almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, and hope you're having a great week thus far. So I'm reaching out to you for what I would consider to be the most important video that I have recorded and sent out to you as the chairman of the Republican Party, and very well may be the most important one I put out in my time as your servant as chair. And our topic of discussion for this video is going to be the possibility of a standing rule change for the Republican Party of Oregon to go to what is called a semi-closed primary, where we would, for at least this election cycle, allow non-affiliated voters to participate in our primary election this upcoming May. So, important stuff, really important. And my goal is to get this video recorded and done in less than 20 minutes and not contribute too much to greenhouse gases globally here by pontificating too much. And so, not an open primary. That's a term that gets used a lot. That's not accurate of what this proposal is. This is what we call semi-closed primary. What we are looking to do is what they do in West Virginia and have done for the past 2 decades. The West Virginia Republicans brought this to my attention several months back, that 20 plus years ago, they actually made this change where they opened up their primary, and it was non-affiliated voters that they were targeting. It wasn't Democrat registered voters, it wasn't Libertarian, Constitution, or Independent, which is actually a party, but people consider that to be non-affiliated. In Oregon, our state statute only allows us to potentially, with our party rules alone, open ourselves up to non-affiliated. We can't even open ourselves up to those other parties I mentioned. So I know that's a big source of angst from what I'm hearing from a lot of folks out there, and the discussion is good because it helps me understand things better, and as your servant, just to be able to bring a more complete package of information to you, the PCPs, the delegates, and the folks that will be making the ultimate decision on February 5th. A lot of folks have wanted to know why February 5th, because there was some other events going on that I wasn't aware of. Not in the state, but just outside the state, by good people that are, helping folks that are pro-America, pro-freedom, training seminars and whatnot that we're inadvertently were competing with. So the answer to the question is, it had to be February 5th. From a timing issue standpoint, there is a statute, state law, that requires the paperwork to be decided on, filled out, and turned in by major parties like ourselves or the Democrats by no later than, I believe it's February 16th. And so the other option would have been February 11th or 12th, which would have been a Friday or a Saturday, but that would only left us with a couple business days to get this decided and turned in properly. And so it just wasn't responsible for us. It would have been a tragedy that if you, the delegates, would have come forward and decided that this was the best path forward to saving Oregon, and then we couldn't actually get the paperwork submitted properly, and there was something that happened with the partisan elected official that is currently the Secretary of State of Oregon somehow being able to successfully block this for some strange reason that I can't see right now, but is possible. It would have just been all for nothing. And so I think once you hear the polling that we've done, you're going to understand why this needed to be put in front of the body and have adequate time to be processed if indeed, in fact, you choose on February 5th to make this temporary change. So the discussion around whether this is bylaw change or standing rule change, it's not a bylaw change, it's a standing rule. Difference is bylaw requires a little bit different kind of notice, and it's permanent. But the body the delegates could later reverse a bylaw change. So in this case, because we want to be optimistically cautious, we chose to go with a standing rule change. So it's just for this election cycle, if it was put forward and passed by you, the delegates. And then we would have to come back next year and either go forward with a permanent change of a bylaw change reflecting something like this semi-closed primary structure, or do another standing rule change and keep it going with that expiration date. So like I said, with West Virginia, they brought it to my attention. I previously hadn't even given something like this a thought, let alone a second one. And the long and the short is that 20 plus years ago, the West Virginia Republicans only had one seat in all of 34 state Senate seats in West Virginia. I don't know what the House seats were, or Congress or whatnot. I'm pretty confident it was universally Democrat for federal or governor's positions statewide and whatnot. I'd be shocked if it wasn't, because when you only have one seat out of 34 that are Republican, that's wow. Obviously, that's even worse than where we're at substantially. It's worse than California. So now they're in strong majorities, House, Senate, statewide. They dominate. I think Joe Manchin, last time I checked, is the only prominent Democrat in elected office in the state of such, category. So, and he's, I think a lot of folks know who U.S. Senator Joe Manchin is at this point. You and I would consider him a very conservative Democrat. And so what the folks in West Virginia have done is they've showed that the model of extending the olive branch to folks that are either not fully engaged or offended for some reason by, the whole partisanship thing and parties and all that, they have shown that this is a big deal. And so, but that wasn't enough for me to call a meeting. I collaborated with multiple members of the House Republican Caucus, and several of those amazing women came together with me and pushed forward with me on this. They did the research. They were the glue on this situation. They were amazing. And so, excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold, so I apologize. We got a lot of great data that we'll be going over here in this video, and then we'll be having another discussion next week. So please keep your notepads ready today for possible questions, concerns, anything that I didn't fully cover or cover at all that may come to mind as you're listening to me, or that's coming up in conversation on social media or amongst yourselves. Critically important that you put that down on your notepads, because you and I will be having an open discussion from the standpoint that I'll be on the camera there, and there'll be a chat box available or an email system. I'm not sure yet, but we'll be putting out notice later this week on when and how that meeting is going to go. And it's open to PCPs, delegates, county officers, obviously, to engage me with those questions, comments, concerns, so I can address them and I can be thinking about it, and just making sure that I bring forward a complete package of information, not bias, not agenda, information for you on February 5th, because the decision is in your hands. I'm just one guy. I've only got one vote at the meeting, so this is up to you. So West Virginia, total reversal, like amazing story. Concern. A lot of folks have expressed a concern of, and it's a logical one. I get it. My knee-jerk reaction to something like this is the same. What if there's a conspiracy out there somehow, or something where a radical leftist infiltration to our party by opening this up to what is just shy of 1 million registered voters that are not affiliated with any political party, including their not independent party. And just so you know by the numbers, that's only 30,000 less than the Democrat registered vote count in this state, and nearly 300,000 more than we, the Republicans. So this is something we can't ignore, and pardon the pun, it's the elephant in the room that must be addressed. On the leftist infiltration, I think you and I's concerns can be relieved simply by acknowledging the fact that state law is going to require these non-affiliated voters, if we made this kind of a rule change, to opt in to our Republican primary. So for them to actually get ballots that give them the right to select Republican candidates for the primary going into the general election, which currently the ballots they're going to get are going to have no one on it except for nonpartisan races. So, judges, if there were school board races going on, you'd see that. But anything that's partisan, party-based choices, currently non-affiliated voters won't see anything on there related to you or I or anything like that. But if we made this choice, they would have to go to their clerk's office, to the Secretary of State's website, or several other options that they may have, and fill out paperwork saying, I want to register by opting in to vote in the Republican primary. So I feel very strongly that logically works out to essentially the biggest, greatest, wonderful, voter registration drive we could engage in. I think that's a great thing. I mean, you and I don't go out and grill people when we're doing voter registration drives on every possible political viewpoint they have on things. You won't get very many people registered if you're out there grilling them on 20 different issues. I'm not even confident that that's legal. But again, let me know if it is legal or not legal. Let me know. I'd like to know. The point is that there's no legal framework, nor should there be, out there that filters what people's core beliefs are before they register for a party affiliation. So the idea that there's some conspiracy plan out there to jump into our party and dilute or somehow corrupt the outcome of candidates that emerge from the Republican primary, I don't think it works in reality, because there's nothing stopping people from changing their party affiliation now. Why don't they just switch to Republican now if that's the goal and the plan? The deadline has passed for people to change their party affiliations. This is true, but a month back, 2 months back, whatever that deadline was, forgive me for not knowing, why didn't they do it before? And why are they going to do it now versus a few months ago, versus 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago? Also, for the radicalists that we're thinking about there, that we're concerned about, I think there's more proof and logic to the fact that they're going to stay in the Democrat primary as Democrat registered voters, because they've already got the wind at their backs. They've got massive public labor union money. They've got massive, big billionaire special interest national money here coming into the state. They've got a systematic path towards victory. And so they're warring with each other on who's going to emerge as the most, scary, forceful, far leftist they can produce. They don't want to have moderates come out of that. Not a majority of them anyway. If they did, we wouldn't be seeing the tragedies we're seeing with this one party rule here in the state, with people like Kate Brown and Tina Kotek and Shemia Fagan and Peter Courtney. So I think I'm very sure that the opt-in factor really purifies things, or at least I'll say it should give you and I confidence that the non-affiliated voters that are going to choose this path, they're engaged, and they're more than likely going to be disproportionately conservative. And the polling we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, I think, will really reassure you that will be the case. I mean, they're not all going to be, Ronald Reagan's nephew and niece, but they're not going to be, Nancy Pelosi converts more than likely either, because they're, like I said, for the reasons I gave, they're voting in the Democratic primary. So let's check that. We got a temporary thing here if it goes through. So we'll get to reconsider this and see what happens if it happens after this year. And we got the opt-in aspect that is required by state law. And so I think it just gives us a lot of stability. But this really gives us an opportunity to show who we really are and message strongly about what we are as Republicans and freedom-loving individuals. So let's talk about the trends of us as Republican registered voters over the last 20 years. Fact is that if we're concerned about producing, a spineless, those are your words. Those are the words that get brought to me as your chair. Spineless, lukewarm, Democrat light general election candidates. And again, these are your words as delegates, PCPs, voters. I hear this stuff all the time, as you can imagine. We're already doing that as Republicans only. Other than Dennis Richardson, and forgive me if I'm missing somebody in there, we have not been selecting as Republican registered voters alone over the last 20 years, 15 years, whatever it's been. We have not been selecting the Ronald Reagan, if you will, male or female Republican candidates for like our gubernatorial races and things like that. So Dennis is the only one that I'm aware of. And ironically, he just about beat arguably what was formerly the most popular governor in the state of Oregon with John Kitzhaber. I'm not saying I love John, his policies anyway, but it's hard to argue a guy that's a 4-term governor is not at least up in the top 2 or 3, or at least was before his fall from grace. And so Dennis I helped Dennis in that race. He had a pittance of money compared to John, as you can imagine, like most Republicans do. And he just about pulled it off. And if he'd have ran the next time for governor instead of Secretary of State, we could have very well been calling him the first Republican governor since before I was born to be elected in the state. And so again, we got to change something. It literally can't get any worse. I think the argument that we just continue to do everything the same, it's not wise to me, because like I said, I was not yet born the last time we selected a Republican. Something's got to change. And this isn't Joe Manchin type Democrats. This isn't even Jimmy Carter type Democrats, right? I mean, we're talking about something that is scary. It is just scary where their leadership is, and where the radical faction that is driving their party off a cliff and consequently taking the rest of us with them. It is terrifying where this is going. So we need to do something different, but we need to know what we're doing. And you and I are alike in that. I always believe in knowing what I'm getting into. So I think this actually stands a great chance, and the polling is going to reveal why I believe that we could actually produce more Ronald Reagan type candidates out of our primary going forward, at any position for that matter. This is about respect. Whenever there is a fence between two people or two groups, how do we get past the wall, right, of an offended brother or sister? And to me, I think you always got to start with removing the offense, and that means establishing mutual understanding of respect and love. If we just keep pounding on the issues, right, that's probably what drove us apart, was either a miscommunication about where we both stood, or the way it was delivered offended someone. And in this case, over a third of the state that is voting, or is registered to vote anyway, is in that offended category. They're not Republicans, they're not Democrats. And I joined the Republican Party as a volunteer. I joined the Republican Party because it stands primarily for, compared to the Democrats, this is the party that represents love of freedom, love of thy neighbor, equality, God-fearing principles. In God we trust. I mean, that's right in our platform. And so it's the boat I want to row in with you. And we've got to be fishers of men and women and pull these brothers and sisters that are currently not affiliated with anything, that are offended about something. We got to pull them into our boat, because the storm is fierce. And if we don't fix this soon, it's over. I fundamentally believe that if we don't see some major changes this November here in Oregon, I really don't know what. I just don't know how we survive it. We have to win this November. Have to. So let's extend that olive branch. Let's pull them into the boat, and let's persuade them through our actions as well as our words, but actions first, that they want to be Republicans, and at the very least, they're going to want to vote Republican this November and every November that follows for elections. So let's get into the poll. So, where is it here? Sorry. Oh, that's terrible. My apologies. Okay. For some reason, it's not pulling up here. I can do it by heart, though. I've looked at it until my eyes turn red and they want to shut. First question is, are you a registered voter? Obviously, if they answered no, then we kicked that out and we had to move on because that's not a relevant poll sample. This poll was started on December 28th of 2021, so just a couple weeks ago, and it concluded January 3rd of this year, 2022. Results were sent to me either that evening or first thing in the morning on January 4th. I prayed with my wife on our knees before we looked at the results that God would give us clear direction on whether I should send out notice to bring this meeting forward for you to consider on February 5th. We looked at the polling. I felt it was overwhelmingly what we would have hoped for. And so, nonetheless, as you know, we then sent out the 30-day notice of the standing rule change conversation, as well as some other things that are going to happen in the meeting there. And here we are. So, historical context of polls. Statewide polls cover roughly 500 to 1,000 people in them for the whole statewide approach, which is roughly 4.3 million people, a little bit more in the state of Oregon. And to me, that's just like not enough. And so I worked with our legislative Republican leaders on what were the swing districts that we should cover. We covered 8 Senate swing districts that the Senate Republicans are focused on to either keep or gain, most of which are gain seats. They reflect the new maps that the Democrats pushed through here just a few months ago. And so it's as accurate, it's as fresh as it can get. You literally can't get any more fresh polling, knowing where the political winds and where people are out on their values and who they are and how they see things for a 30-day notice meeting requirement than what we have right here. And so because it was 8 districts out of the 30 Senate seats that are possible across the state, that's roughly 26.7% of the total state population. So take 1,143, I know that's the exact number of total respondents, take that times, roughly 4. And what we have here is the equivalent of a 4,400 person recipient poll versus, like I said, I'm not aware of statewide polls for like governor's race, U.S. Senate, president, whatever, that, in Oregon anyway, they go above 1,000 people sampled, but they're usually around 500 to 700. We did the equivalent of 4,400. That's just math. I know that I know our brothers and sisters across the aisle don't like math anymore because it's a pesky thing for them, but we believe in math. 2 + 2 = 4, and this is 4,400 equivalent across the state. So it's a deep dive, because my job is to make sure, as your gatekeeper, that I don't even allow the possibility of bringing in the wolf into the home. Right? You're my brothers and sisters. You put me in this position of service and authority over the party, and I've done my due diligence to make sure that I brought forward great information, thorough information, and that we are pushing forward in a direction that's going to take back Oregon for those Ronald Reagan-esque type principles and values. And so, question 1, are you a registered voter? Yes. Question 2, and forgive me, I'm having to visualize all this stuff. Question 2, what is your party affiliation? It seems like about 700 and change of them said specifically they knew for sure they were non-affiliated. The other ones in the poll there said either like non-affiliated, independent, not a political party. So I think we all know, but if we don't, watching the video here, a lot of people that consider themselves independents are not affiliated, and so on and so forth. So anyway, it sampled non-Republican, non-Democrat folks. Third question was, let's see. Third question, I don't remember in order what they were, but I'm going to cover it accurately. One of the key questions was, what's your number one most important issue? And it was economic issues, public safety, education, environment, social issues. Not sure was one. And this is what they chose. The number one issue across the board really was economic issues. We win on that. What's your second most important issue? Public safety. Considering that the Democrats are not just branded, they are the party of really lawlessness and abolish the police, defund the police, whatever you want to call it. We win on law and order, peace, prosperity in neighborhoods and communities. That's a Republican slam dunk win. What was the third most important issue to non-affiliated voters? And it was lowering taxes. That one shocked me, I gotta be honest, because I'm just elated that lowering taxes is that important to these good folks. I can't remember the last time I heard an elected Democrat promoting lowering taxes. So yeah, we crushed that one. So these are our people. That's what this is showing. Fourth issue, even though we didn't ask what's your fourth most important issue, was consistently within the percentages. And you'll see that on February 5th when these polls, when the poll is fully revealed to you, one of the owners of the polling firm, the professional, is actually going to explain the poll to us and break it down, because I don't want any question about what this all means after it's done. I want you to know. And so the professional is going to be there digitally, because he's got to be out of state, unfortunately, on a pre-scheduled event, is going to actually boom, 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 hit it out for you on what this all was and everything. So education was definitely the fourth and most important issue, and you'll see that in the numbers. Next topic. If the Republican Party of Oregon chose to modify its rules and allow non-affiliated voters to vote in their upcoming primary election, would you be much more likely, somewhat more likely, and then in the less likely category or not sure, don't know, to support those Republican candidates that emerged from the primary in the general election of this November? And I'm pleased to say that 61.1% said either much more likely, which was 34.5%, and whatever that works out to, 25 or 26.6% or something said somewhat more likely. So nearly 2/3 of these good folks said, I'm going to vote Republican if they show me that kind of respect. Absolutely, right? Then the not sure, don't know was like 27%. So just by the numbers, if we only give ourselves half of what the first two numbers of likely, much more likely, if we only give ourselves, let's say, 1/3 of that, and that is what we take out of the don't know, not sure category of 27-ish%, that means we're at 70% or more of non-affiliated voters that are registered in the state are going to vote Republican. We just got a message. We just got to let them know who we are. We just got to show them that respect, that olive branch. Remove the fence that is offense. And we take back Oregon. We're more conservative than Texas. We're like Idaho territory. That's what the numbers and the facts are showing me. So the next question was, if you knew that national statistics showed that COVID-related mandates, such as mask mandates and otherwise, school shutdowns, so on and so forth, was leading to a dramatic increase in youth-related suicides, would you be more or less likely to support COVID-related mandates? And again, the vast majority said not going to support those. There was a larger than I would have thought undecided, not sure, don't know. And I think that's just because they didn't quite understand the question. Again, a lot of the folks, that get sampled polls, it really doesn't matter whether it's a Republican registration-based, Democrat, non-affiliated, whatever. There's just a lot of folks that answer polls that they're not as politically astute as you, the delegates, because they're just not focused on this stuff as you and I. So they don't hear as quickly or as clearly some of the things that are said, like in a poll. And so, again, if we just take 1/3 of those people, which is way less than the ones that said they're with us on no more of these mandates if it's hurting children, right? All the other stuff aside, if it's hurting children, they're not for it. It's right around 70% are with us. And again, I've looked at a lot of polls. Republican registered voters, I don't know if I recall them being much more, if at all, more conservative in a poll than what these non-affiliateds are showing. The next really encouraging topic was school choice. So I'm just gonna make it more simple than the whole wording that was in there, but long and the short was, would you, as non-affiliated voters, be in support of school choice? Meaning, would you be in support of tax dollars fully following the children based to the schools they go to, whether private or public, if that is what their families chose was best for their families and those children. And again, an overwhelming majority said they are with us on this. I mean, it was not even close. I think, like, if I remember correctly, I think it was less than 13% said they were against. It might have even been like 9%. There was another, again, like 20+% of not sure, don't know. It's probably the same group over and over kind of saying the not sure, don't know. But by the averages, if we take home a third of them to the 2/3 that was actually in their absolute for school choice, they're done with this whole monopolization of our tax dollars and stealing away of our children's hearts and minds by the groups that we're all aware of doing this kind of stuff. Like, man, that is great stuff. Like, we just, like, it's like can't lose. We just got to get the word out. So that just brought a lot of joy to my heart, to be honest. So demographics, who are these people? So again, I was just blown away. A huge amount of the people sampled were between 18 and 46 years of age, I think was the mark. So it was like 18 to 34 and then 35 to 46. Like 41% of the total people sampled were that young. Again, that was way better than I thought this poll. I mean, like, if you'd have told me that was the demographic of age that was going to be that highly saturated in this, and I think it's actually, if I remember correctly, if you go up to age 54 in the poll or 56 or something like that, so 18 to 56 is, shoot, I think it was knocking on the door of 70% of the poll's respondents, and that it's this conservative of a leaning poll. That's just astounding. It blew away my wildest expectations. Only 2.1% of the poll was like 80 plus years old, and it was 57 to 81-ish, was whatever that is, 17-18%, somewhere in there, maybe 20-something%. So the poll should have been left, but it was very conservative. Also, those 8 swing districts that we were focused on, that we focused this on, that's the northern coast of the state. That's not a conservative bastion. That's the outer lying Portland area, Salem area, multiple districts there, Eugene region, not a conservative bastion, right? And some other spots. Like this was a more city-based, leftist, overall average left-leaning sample area. So if the poll had been statewide, if you're focused on statewide races, it looked to me like this would have been 3 to 5% more conservative than it came back if we'd have done it statewide. So the good news is even better than what it appears in this very conservative outcome. It's just great stuff. The racial demographic was representative, across the board. So we got everybody in there, because that's what we should do. We want to know what everybody's thinking. We want to know who people are before we invite them into our family, potentially. And so I think this is actually, I mean, to me, it just seems obvious that this is much more of a thorough look at who folks are than just blindly going out and dropping voter registration pamphlets all over the place. I mean, these folks, they want to be with us. We just got to go help them understand it. I mean, I'm going to give a quick cheesy little analogy. If you're looking for a partner to go to the dance, at school or whatever, and there's just 2 folks, but there's like this friction somehow between you and them. The one that comes to you and says, hey, I don't need a full commitment right now. I just want you to go with me. Let's have a good time. We see eye to eye on pretty much everything. And, just a half to 3/4 commitment right now. Opt in with me and let's go have a great time and change the school or whatever, right? And the other main person, right, that in this case is the Democratic Party, said, no, we're not interested. We're good. We like running everything the way we're doing it. So that in and of itself is offensive to any reasonable person. We, the Republicans, say, let's go. Democrats say, no way. No way. Not interested. We can change Oregon. There's another question in there of, do you consider yourself Republican, or do you consider yourself leans Republican, leans Democrat, not sure, or depends on the specific issue. We were about 30 to 40% higher on people that identify as leans Republican. It was 16.5% leans Republican and 11.5% leans Democrat with, what is that, 60, it was like, there's a, not sure, don't know, but it was like 68%, I think, that said, depends on the specific issue. If the math's not adding up quite perfect there, I may be off a couple points. I know I'm exactly right on the Republican leans, Democrat leans, but yeah, everything was positive. Then the other question of, do you consider yourself ideologically liberal, conservative, and some, you know, just whatever rest of the way there? We got 5 times what the people that consider themselves ideological liberal put down. It's like 5.1% consider themselves liberal ideologically. We got like 26% plus leans conservative. Conservative, that was the word they chose. We just need to get these people to vote. They're going to vote for us. So that's the long and the short of it. Sorry, I went over my 20 minutes. For me, it was pretty good. Can't wait to get this out to you. Can't wait to see what you come back with. There's a lot of great stuff to talk about. You know, let's lead boldly. Let's make sure we're making the right decisions. It's going to come down to you. This is what it's supposed to be like. Let's debate. Let's not fight. Let's not cuss each other out. I don't know about you. I've had enough of it. For those who just refuse to engage with respectful conversation and facts, I don't know what you're searching for. There's a better way. And for those of you that are witness to that kind of stuff, don't fall into it, please. It's tempting to fall into the bloodbath. You know, when you got people attacking you left, right, and center. As you can imagine, it happens to me every waking moment. The Democrats are coming after me behind the scenes and out front, like I think a lot of you know. I don't think there's anyone in this state that even approaches how much they hate me. But then, you know, to have people that are supposedly on your own side and your own family, politically speaking, gunning for you just as bad or worse, it's you know, it can be discouraging. But God is good. He's brought me a long way. I'm very grateful for the people that love me and the people that hate me through this last year, because it's shattered my pride. I thought it had shattered me up until just the last few days. I think I'm starting to realize that what's been dying in me is my pride, and there's no loss in that. There's nothing good about pride. I want to fully trust God so I can serve you better. So I'm feeling great. And regardless of which direction this goes, thank you for participating. Thank you for serving. And I'm going to do the best I can to serve you in whatever way I feel the Lord leads me to. And yeah, it's on Him. All we can do is obey. So love you guys. And let's get those notepads working. And come at me like Muhammad Ali next week, because I want to know for sure which way I'm going to vote on February 5th. Right now, I'm definitely leaning yes, I mean. I'm definitely leaning yes. I'm a solid yes as it is right now. But I could be changed. But I need facts. I need to be shown facts on why I shouldn't extend the hand to a community of people that I would argue is every bit as conservative as the entire registered Republican base. So let's be bold. All right. See you guys later.